Many of the political elite right here in America believe the time has come to replace the Declaration of Independence with the Declaration of Interdependence. They say the time has come to surrender long-cherished liberties for the sake of the common good. Should the United States surrender its sovereignty to the global governance of the United Nations? It's time for another provocative edition of Politics and Religion.
Look, there are two things I don't discuss: politics and religion.
In my house, we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion.
I'll talk to you about anything except politics and religion.
I never talk about politics and religion.
Politics determines how we'll live here on earth. Religion determines how we'll live forever. I'm Irvin Baxter. I think it's time we talk about it. The time has come to face it square on. We have just celebrated our Declaration of Independence, July the 4th. All of us are very happy to celebrate that time, and yet there are many people who no longer celebrate it. They believe the time has come to bury it. They gladly tell you that the time has come to trade the Declaration of Independence for a Declaration of Interdependence. Now, I'm not telling you that this is happening in some obscure dark corner somewhere. I'm telling you that this is happening at the very highest of levels. I hold in my hand right now the cover of a book, The Great Experiment by Mr. Strobe Talbot, the story of ancient empires, modern states, and the quest for a global nation. A global nation? What does that mean? And who is Strobe Talbot? Well, what that means is when you talk about a global nation, it means the abolishment of the nation state as we have known it and the merging of all nations into one world governmental system. That's exactly what it means. Now, Mr. Strobe Talbot wrote an article for Time magazine back in July the 20th of 1992. So what are we looking at now, 19 years ago? And in this article, he actually entitled the article, "The Birth of the Global Nation." Radical idea back in those days. His reward for writing the article was that he was elevated to the Deputy Secretary of State of the United States of America in the Clinton administration. So apparently someone at the White House really liked his idea of a global nation. And consequently, he served the next 7 years in the Clinton White House, in the Deputy Secretary of State's office. Then after the Clinton administration term was over, he left there to become president of the Brookings Institute, a position that he occupies till this moment. As the president of the Brookings Institute, he invited a lady by the name of Susan Rice to become a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute for Foreign Affairs. However, when President Obama needed an advisor for foreign affairs as he was running for president, he tapped Susan Rice out from under the tutelage of Strobe Talbot, who believes the time has come to denounce the Declaration of Independence and to adopt a Declaration of Interdependence, the birth of the global nation. So she went to advise President Obama on the way foreign affairs should really be run. In turn, then, when President Obama won the elections, he then sent her to the United Nations to preach the global governance gospel there, which she has been faithfully and unflailingly doing while President Obama himself continues to press toward the same goal. So what am I saying to you? I'm telling you that this concept of getting rid of the Declaration of Independence and moving toward a declaration of interdependence is not some kind of a radical side street theory. It is the theory embraced by the people running our government. The Brookings Institute probably is contributing as much to U.S. policy around the world as any other single think tank, because Strobe Talbott has been an advisor to President Obama in addition to Susan Rice. Well, now we're going to bring on Mr. Panetta as our next Secretary of Defense, who is a one world government proponent to the eyeballs. So we have Hillary Clinton, a believer in one world government. I have quotes from her that prove that conclusively. She's Secretary of State. Now we're going to have a Secretary of Defense and a president and an ambassador to the United Nations, all of them believing the time has come for the end of the nation state and the birth of a single global nation. Okay, so what's all this mean and where is it leading? Maybe it's a good idea. I mean, after all, their argument is that conflict between nations is the number one cause of war on earth. We've had horrible wars. They argue that Europe had two horrible wars, World War I, World War II, until they decided to get rid of their nations and formed the European Union. They just signed a European Constitution on November the 3rd of 2009. So they're arguing that really the European Union is setting the way for the birth of a global nation. They've done it in Europe. They've accomplished it there. 27 nations now have become one nation in Europe. So why can't we now repeat this success throughout the world? Now, those are the arguments. However, once you go down a new road, it's really good to decide where that road will lead you. Now, where do we go to find out where the road will lead? We go to the prophecies of the Bible. The Bible just happens to prophesy that there will be a one world government formed, a global nation formed in the very near future now. It's to happen just a few short years before the second coming of Jesus Christ in the Battle of Armageddon. So the Bible prophesies that there will be a world government. The Bible tells us that this world government entity will devour the whole earth, will dominate the entire world. So this is what they're pushing for, and this is what the Bible prophesies. Is that a coincidence, or is it prophesied because God foreknew that it was going to happen, and he put it in his word as a warning to you and me? Now, will anyone sit out of this global nation? Will anyone retain their sovereignty in spite of this global nation? The answer is yes, a few will. Most will not. It is my goal that the United States of America will be one of those who does retain its sovereignty. I know two in particular that will. The country of Jordan and the country of Israel will be successful in not falling under the power of the Antichrist. I'm hoping the United States of America, as the best big friend to those two nations, will also be able to stay out. And there are prophetic reasons to believe that we can. That's our big question today. This book, written by Strobe Talbott, is called The Great Experiment. An experiment is something you try. You don't know what the result will be. Well, I know what the result's going to be, and I don't want to try it, because the result is going to be the greatest tyranny the world has ever known. The Bible calls it the Great Tribulation. Jesus Christ said, "Then shall be great tribulation, such as never has been before, nor ever again shall be." Well, I see we've got a lot of calls on the screen, and we were on recording the last couple of programs, so I do want to take a lot of time for you today on the phones, and we are going to do that. We're also going to be discussing an article that appeared in the Jerusalem Post just a few days ago called Unmasking the International Community. Whatever that is, the international community, we better know what it is, because it is the one world government of which I'm speaking here today. However, let's go to the phones now, and let's go first of all to Georgia. And Robert, hello, you're on Politics and Religion.
Yes, sir, Mr. Baxter.
Yes.
This is Robert from Georgia. Listen, I have a question that sort of pertains to what you're talking about how do you know how many Supreme Court justices that Obama has appointed already?
I'm not positive. I know he's appointed 2 at least. Kagan and Sotomayor. Are there any others that I'm missing?
No, I think he's only appointed 2. That's what my uncle said. But my uncle thinks that Obama, if he gets elected again, that he's going to try to get another justice or 2, and then he's going to try to override the Congress and declare martial law, and then him become a leader like Castro here in the United States. Do you think that's possible?
I really doubt that is possible. I doubt that will happen. However, he already is ruling as somewhat of a dictator. He has so far been able to override the will of the Congress. For instance, our military activities. He's taken several very aggressive military stances, in particular our bombing in Libya. A lot of people say, well, we're just taking a back seat in Libya. But a recent article that I read within the last few days says that we are presently running hundreds of bombing raids against Muammar Gaddafi, in spite of the fact that the Congress is very upset because the president is usurping its role as the declarer of war. So we could slide into a dictatorship because Obama is such a strong personality. We could slide into it just if nobody's got the backbone or the will to stand up against it.
Right.
Now,
well,
to say that we could actually declare martial law, I suppose it could happen if a bad enough crisis arose, like, for instance, if we had a major war, and there is a major war coming, then perhaps for a while he could declare martial law. The one thing that Obama really fears, though, is the huge escalation of owning of guns here in the United States of America. If a group arose against him and marched against the White House, if we truly believed our freedoms were at risk, our Constitution was at risk, and Obama was trying to take us into a socialist dictatorship, if there ever comes that point where we truly believe that, then there's a huge pile of armaments out there that he really, really does have to worry about.
Right. Well, I'm from Georgia, and I'm a, sort of a, I hunt and fish. I was brought up with. I own a lot of guns and stuff, and I understand what you're saying. But my uncle also said that Obama's talking about a police force that's as strong as the military, and that the police forces in the United States are arming themselves to the teeth and loading up with ammunition because they fear that Obama's going to put an army against declare martial law against the police.
Well, President Obama did talk about having a citizens' army that would be as large as the military, and that scared a lot of people. I haven't heard anything about that lately. I don't know that anything has been done towards him actually realizing that. If anybody knows anything about it, I would love to hear from them. I got to let you go, Robert. We're up against a break, but sobering things to think about, and I don't want to think about them. I don't want those things to ever happen, but could they happen? I suppose they could happen. Because some things point that direction now.
Endtime Ministries presents End of the Age, a 30-minute commercial-free TV show hosted by Irvin Baxter. Every Monday, End of the Age airs on the Church Channel at 9 p.m., Daystar at 10 p.m., and on TBN every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., all Central Standard Time. On End of the Age, Irvin depicts how modern issues like an establishment of a one-world government, the religion of Islam, a coming World War III, and more line up so clearly with Bible prophecies written over 2,000 years ago. To get tomorrow's news today, be sure to tune into End of the Age every Monday on the church channel at 9 p.m., Daystar at 10 p.m., and on TBN every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., all Central Standard Time. Visit endtime.com for more details or call us at 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463.
The Bible prophesies about 4 great spirits which control